With us being only a couple of days away from entering the second phase of version 2.4, it does mean our newest Queen of Fusion will finally be available to pick up. Now it's fair to expect for some players to be interested in Lupa from just their design and playstyle, but the fact that she does provide immense support for every fusion character, alongside dealing considerable damage herself, will most likely be the main factors to consider. So despite releasing after one of the best DPS characters to release, if you happen to have a few fusion characters on your account that you have invested in, Lupa arguably would then be a must pull due to the amount of value she can provide. Now within this video, I'll be going over the specific value Lupa does hold for fusion, breaking down the value of her signature weapon, then I'll wrap it up with her overall value and whether or not you should summon. As always, if you are interested in more WutheringWaves content, would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Kicking this off with some kid standouts, Lupa pretty much is considered to be a sub DPS and support in one, although it is important to consider that the buffs Lupa provides will scale off the amount of fusion characters in the team, which is essentially why Lupa does specialize within monofusion compositions. Additionally, with being a burst damage dealer, it would be ideal for Lupa to pair with other DPS characters that don't consume much field time, which is all the more reason why she does synergize incredibly well with fusion characters such as Changli and Brant. Now, whilst being within a team consisting of other fusion characters, Lupa will be able to provide a 20% fusion damage bonus against Overlord and Calamity class enemies, an 18% attack bonus, 15% fusion resistance red, and auto dodge ability, and would be capable of dealing damage off field. Now to be specific, the differences between being in a fusion team and a team with no fusion characters would be the fusion damage bonus and resistance shred. Given the base fusion damage bonus is 10% and it goes up to 20% whilst in a mono-fusion team. Additionally, the fusion resistance shred will have a base of 3% and can ascend up to 15%. So when it comes to Lupa's kit, it's clear to see the value it holds when she does play alongside other fusion characters. However, it is fair to mention that the attack bonus she provides will reach maximum potential depending on the intro skills activated, alongside the auto dodge ability and off-field capabilities not being locked behind using a full fusion team. Now, the outro skill in addition would be a good indicator on how versatile Lupa exactly is, since it does amplify fusion damage bonus by 20% and basic attack damage bonus by 25%. So as much as characters such as Brant and Encore would benefit from the outro skill, basic attack damage dealers such as Cartethyia and Camellia would also be able to benefit. So there will of course be some value for non-fusion characters, but it's pretty obvious to see that Lupa is tailored for a mono-fusion team, especially since when we do consider her best in slot Echo set, which provides all resonators with a fusion damage bonus of 20% when the caster deals their resonance liberation, it would obviously mean fusion characters would benefit significantly whilst non-fusion characters wouldn't benefit at all. Therefore, with all of the buffs Lupa provides through her kit, alongside the fusion damage bonus via the Flaming Clawprint Echo set, as mentioned, there will be a lot of value that Lupa would be able to provide for pretty much any fusion character. Now to finish this off with Lupa's damage dealing capabilities, as previously stated, she is a burst damage dealer and so would synergize incredibly well within a team consisting of herself, Changli and Brant. Not only due to the fact that they're all burst damage dealers, but since all three have outro skills that majorly benefit the character switching in. So with that, and just focusing on the fact that Lupa does have incredible DPS potential alongside the huge amount of buffs she provides, it truly does make her one of the most valuable characters in the game, and especially for fusion compositions. Now focusing on the value of Lupa's signature weapon, aside from the design looking insane, it will of course be incredible for Lupa. but also for Lupa's allies that are part of the fusion attribute. The main stat will provide a considerable 48.6% crit damage bonus, and as for the passive, an attack bonus of 12% is provided unconditionally as usual. Alongside when activating an intro skill or the Resonance Liberation, the wielder receives a 24% liberation damage bonus for 6 seconds. Now when dealing heavy attack damage, it does extend the liberation damage bonus by an additional 4 seconds, which would bring the total duration of the liberation buff to 10 seconds. Now of course that might seem a bit short, but again with Lupa being a burst damage dealer, it would mean she wouldn't require much field time to go through her rotation. Now alongside extending the liberation buff, perhaps most importantly would be that all resonators in the team receive a 24% fusion damage bonus for 30 seconds. So alongside the buffs provided via Lupa's kit and the Flaming Clawprint Echo set, the signature weapon will provide even more value towards other fusion characters. So unlike other signature weapons for DPS characters, Lupa's is quite unique as it does provide a lot of value towards herself and allies. So with that being the case, Lupa's weapon is arguably more of a must-pull than most signature weapons when considering the amount of value it holds. However, if you simply can't afford to pick it up as you might be drained from Cartethyia or perhaps are looking to save for Phrolova, fortunately there would be a few alternative options such as the Lustrous Razor. The passive is capable of providing a considerable Resonance Liberation damage bonus alongside an energy regen increase, but the main stat will provide an attack bonus opposed to a crit bonus, which means they will be a bit more reliant on Lupa's Echo substats. In addition to that, either the Ages of Harvest or the Verdant Summit will certainly be viable alternatives, given they both provide a crit main stat alongside either a resonant skill damage or heavy attack damage bonus, which are damage bonuses that Lupa can utilize through her abilities. So considering the Ages of Harvest and Verdant Summit above all do provide a crit main stat, they would then be slightly better than the Lustrous Razor since they will allow Lupa to be easier to build. Now of course there are some 4-star alternatives such as the Autumn Trace, but since the Lustrous Razor is a standard banner weapon, it does mean every player sooner or later will be able to pick it up if they do target it on the weapon banner. So with that, the Wildfire Mark isn't necessarily that much of a must for Lupa when considering the alternatives available, but it could be considered as more of a must for her allies since they would benefit massively from the 24% fusion damage bonus. So if you do intend to utilize Lupa within a mono-fusion composition, the signature weapon will no doubt be one of the best weapons you could pick up for your account. Although, whether or not they actually will need that 24% fusion damage bonus is something I'll discuss shortly, but without question it would obviously provide immense value to any fusion DPS. Now just finishing this off with the weapon's flexibility, the crit damage main stat and attack bonus like most weapons will be great for essentially any character. The liberation damage bonus in specific would also be usable for most characters since most liberations do simply scale off liberation damage. Even extending the liberation buff isn't going to be difficult since pretty much every character is capable of dealing heavy attack damage. The only aspect of the signature weapon that the wielder isn't exactly going to benefit from is the fusion damage bonus, considering there isn't exactly another fusion Broadblade character in their game. However, if there are fusion allies within the team alongside the Broadblade character with this weapon, it will at least provide them with a significant fusion damage bonus. So as much as it may not be the best weapon for other Broadblade characters, it would in fact still be usable due to the passive being quite easy to activate and for the crit damage main stat. Lastly, there will of course be more fusion Broadblade characters in the future, and so if you do happen to have this weapon, it will be perfectly viable as an alternative for them due to its ease of use. All in all, Lupa is going to be a great character for Fusion overall, given not only does she provide immense value from her kit, but also through her best in slot echo set and signature weapon, enough to the point that it likely will make the Mono Fusion composition consisting of herself, Changli and Brant one of the best teams in the game, especially when considering the amount of burst damage that will be dealt within the little amount of field time required from each character. So then, as for whether Lupa and her signature weapon are a must for Fusion, in terms of long-term value they will no doubt be incredible for Fusion and perhaps one of the more long-lasting characters in the game. However, as I have mentioned a few times in previous videos, Changli and Brant alone with another support are quite capable of clearing all content in the game without much difficulty. Especially with good echo builds and their signature weapons, they really shouldn't struggle much and wouldn't need the additional support Lupa provides. Although, considering each player does have their own subjective experience when using a certain team, if you feel like that isn't the case for you and you would benefit from Lupa's additional support, then picking her up will be a great decision, and especially since you do already have Changli and Brant on your account. Finally, just touching upon her value outside of the premium Fusion team, Lupa's ability to essentially synergize with any Fusion character makes it that you can play her alongside other characters aside from Changli and Brant, while still being able to perform well overall and deal considerable damage. Now, outside of Fusion as a whole, of course there wouldn't be as much value, but it does feel like we have gotten to a stage that endgame isn't that difficult as long as you have solid builds for your characters, which pretty much means Lupa should be able to perform great even outside of Fusion. So you could very well pick up Lupa if you do really want her and don't have other Fusion characters. But once again, Lupa will specialize and perform their best within a Mono Fusion composition as a sub DPS and support, allowing her to be one of the most valuable characters in the game due to the amount of value and longevity she holds for Fusion. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also drop a comment down below on whether you will be pulling for Lupa alone or with her weapon, or will you be skipping. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.